Welcome to the Super Awesome You. Coming to you on the Super Awesome Mix podcast network, my name is Samer Abuselbi, and I'm the host of this show. Each week, we'll be exploring a topic as it relates to motivation and goals. And of course, we'll feature one song at the end because, after all, this is the Super Awesome Mix network. So last week, we covered the issue of basically getting started and how a task can feel so daunting that you kind of don't want to do any of it. And so you just end up in this cycle of putting it off and talking yourself out of it, and your brain kind of being lazy and all the things it does to protect you, really. You know, again, thank you, brain. You're quite wonderful, even when you irritate us and keep us from achieving our goals. This week, I want to explore a little bit further about what's happening as you do those small tasks and what you might be able to do to try this out on like a really small scale to understand how this works. So I think one of the best analogies here, and again, huge fan of analogies, I'll use them all the time, is to think about water flowing through like a room, nature, down a sink. It doesn't matter. Just think about the way water works. Water will always find the path of least resistance. So if you start water running down the top of a hill, it's going to find all those little rivulets and tiny little cracks and dents and eventually form a stream, and then maybe one day turn it into a river. And like that's how rivers came to be. It's like water kind of pushing its way through an area. And once it's formed, like it's pretty much going to stay on that course for as long as it can, because just kind of like us, it doesn't really want to work very hard. Of course, water is not really a sentient being, but, again, it's an analogy. Stick with me here for a second. We basically work the same way. We have, this idea of momentum, and of course, the opposite of that is essentially inertia. So whenever we aren't doing anything, we just want to remain not doing anything. But once we get started, we can actually we want to keep going. And that is the power of that trick of doing just a little bit at a time. So to really see this in action, it's something that I do all the time, every single day. And it's really kind of amazing because I surprise myself with it. I have a dishwasher. And of course, we load it every single night and run it overnight. And then in the morning, we unload it. And every single morning, it's like, got to unload the dishwasher. It's essentially a chore, right? I'm very grateful for the dishwasher, but it's still a chore. And rather, there's some mornings where I want to put it off. I'm like, I just don't feel like doing this today. But I will force myself. I'd be like, okay, fine. Don't unload the whole thing, but at least unlock the door and like pull out a plate. And I'll unlock the door and I'll like put away some plates, or I'll put away, the set of forks or something that is like really easy to grab and it's just right there. And without fail, honestly, every single time I've ever done this, I think, well, okay, fine. I'll just go ahead and put away all the cutlery, or I'll go ahead and put away all the plates on the lower rack. It's not that much. And I'll complete the lower rack. And then I'm thinking, well, it's ridiculous to walk away now because I've already completed the lower rack. Why wouldn't I just put away the cups and put them on the top rack? Or, at the very least put them, like remove them from the dishwasher. And lo and behold, I do all of that and I put all the dishes away. And now the dishwasher is empty. And it all started because all I could convince myself to do to begin with was literally just pull on the handle and open the dishwasher. That is all I committed to in the beginning, and my brain was really okay with that because it was like, right, I can open this dishwasher door. What's the harm in that? But then, again, momentum started building, and really more importantly, I believe dopamine starts releasing. And dopamine is a really powerful neurotransmitter in our brain that is basically a reward for you doing something, because it's trying to motivate you to keep going. So it's like basically a little, mini drug in our brain that is like, hey, you've done something, congratulations. Now, like, keep going. And it rewards you taking action. So it actually kind of comes before you do anything at all, if that makes sense. A lot of times people think dopamine is like a reward for doing like after the fact. But really, it's kind of like, it's a motivational neurotransmitter. So it rewards you even thinking about doing a task, because then you're like, it's trying to motivate you to go do it. So that's why oftentimes, things like putting together a vision board or announcing your goals to the world and thinking, setting your intention. Those things are important because your brain starts to imagine a future where like your goal is complete and the task is complete. So again, if you really think about this happening as much as you can, like your brain kind of assumes it's already done or it's about to happen, and it releases a little hit of dopamine and you get that like excitement. That's why truly thinking about like hitting a goal gets us excited. Even if we've not even taken a step towards it, we get excited at the thought of having a new goal. And that's the reward system that you can start to hack whenever you've got a really large task ahead of you. So like I mentioned in the last one, going back to the other metaphor of joining a hiker for a hike in the woods, that may sound exhausting if you are thinking about the prospect of going hiking in a forest miles and miles away and all the hard work that that's going to do. But it sounds really doable if all you need to do is like stand up off the couch, or if all you need to do is go sit on your front porch for like 10 minutes. Those are things that like are easy. They're relatively easy compared to climbing around in a forest and putting hiking boots on and doing all of that, very hard sounding work. And again, because of momentum and because of dopamine and because of the way our brains like to like complete tasks, because that's another thing that we really like to do is we don't like to leave things kind of in an unfinished state. By doing that, we reward ourselves and we keep going. And before you know it, you'll likely have made a lot more progress than you ever imagined whenever you started. So as you go about this week and you're thinking about your long-term goals, again, I can't stress this enough. What is a little thing you can do towards this? I'll give you one final example before our song of the week. Like many Americans, really technically all Americans, we have to file taxes every single year. And probably like most Americans, I really don't like to do it. Even though it's really simple and oftentimes it's like literally just gathering the documents to send to an accountant or gathering the documents to file it on TurboTax, whatever the case may be. It's a task that's so easy to put off because it's not super fun to do, but it's a required task. And every single year I find myself, of course, trying to delay and procrastinate, not wanting to do it, realizing I eventually have to do it. And I always do, of course. But what I've started to do, like I did this year, I was like, oh my gosh, taxes, what a pain. And I thought, okay, well, what's something I could do to like make it a little bit easier for myself in the, month or something that's going to take me to actually want to sit down and do it. And I thought, well, I'll go to all my like credit cards and download the statements, or I'll just put all the paperwork in one stack. And then I'm looking at this stack of papers, or I'm looking at this folder with all my stuff. I'm like, actually, you know what? Let me just go ahead and kind of like start to fill out like my report online. And let me just log in and make sure my password still works and I don't need to like reset it or anything. And I'll log in. I'm like, wow, I'm here. Let me just answer a couple of questions. And you know where the story goes. By the end of it, I actually have completed my taxes and I filed them away and it feels great. And again, it's because I didn't sit down with the intent to finish and file my taxes. I sat down with the intent to at least organize it for like future me to come back and do it. And even if I had only done that, future me would have been so pleased with myself because I would have made it that much easier and I would have reduced that, hill to climb significantly, because now the thought would have been like, oh, well, I've already organized everything. All I need to do is like log into TurboTax. And so that has been a really powerful thing for me to do. And I think you can do it for really small things like unloading the dishwashers, slightly bigger things like filing your taxes each year, and the really big things like starting a successful business or losing the weight that you want to lose, or, running a marathon you want to run, or whatever your goals may be that sound really large and are impressive things to achieve. So this song of the week, to kind of make you feel awesome entering into your goal, because that's going to be like a recurring theme, I'm going to go with Enter Sandman by Metallica. This was recently featured on one of our mixtapes, our Closers Mix on the Super Awesome Mix podcast. And actually, it was our top ranked track for people walking in onto the mound to close out a game. And it's one that I actually was listening to right before this recording, which is another reason it's top of mind, because it is just such a great song to crank up, to feel empowered. The drums on it are out of this world. I mean, still one of the best drum songs, I think, on the planet. And it just gives you that, again, kind of feeling of like, I can do this. So with that, it's another super awesome it's another amazing week for you to get a little bit closer to your goals and keep reaching for what matters most to you. My name is Samra Abuselbi. You can find more of our content at Super Awesome Mix on Instagram and TikTok. With that, I hope you have a wonderful week ahead, and I'll see you next week for another Super Awesome You.